Good day, duelists! I recently traveled to Lyon to take part in the French Duel Masters Championship of 2026, and I met some great people and had an amazing time. I played on stream during the very first round of the tournament, and well, I simply couldn't bring myself to not show you this amazing duel. In this match, I'm on the left hand side, if you couldn't tell from the playmat, piloting a version of Fortress Burn adapted for the DM06 format, and my opponent is Hadrien piloting what I would call Water Darkness Midrange. I'll be doing a live commentary over the VOD, which I'll be playing at 1.5 times speed to keep the video from being too long. So the game starts as every Duel Masters game starts, with the players just charging mana. Of course my deck is a bit slow, so not much can happen in the very first few turns, but you already have the very first play of the game, which is a Ghost Touch from my opponent hitting a Prometheus, which does hurt, but it's not all that bad. If I recall correctly, I had a 3-cost card, there we go, I had an Energy Stream here, so I was really hoping that you wouldn't hit that, so I'm not too mad about the Prometheus being discarded. Aqua Halcus is played here, just drawing a card, and I think here I was debating between multiple options, and I think what I ended up doing is just playing a Bronzam Tribe to ramp up, because if I recall correctly, I had a Lost Soul in hand and my plan was to get to 7 mana as fast as possible and try to Lost Soul my opponent, because that usually can guarantee victory, and I think my opponent recognized this or read it and started attacking early, but thankfully a very early Terror Pit Shield kind of bails me out of the aggression for now. Like, first shield Terror Pit is of course amazing. And here a Pyrofighter Magnus comes to take care of the Halcus. Pyrofighter Magnus in this deck kind of acts as early removal. This is exactly what the card is for, these like taking care of early game threats. It's kind of like a repeatable Crimson Hammer in that sense, and here my opponent plays another Ghost Touch and he has a 1 in 3 to take my Lost Soul that I would have played next turn, which of course he does. And here I'm quite sad that I didn't get the Lost Soul off, so I just charge mana and pass. And if you'll notice, I'm at 7 mana, so charging mana and passing can only mean one thing, which some of you might have already smelled it coming. But there's another Halcus and another Ghost Touch, the third Ghost Touch this game, which does discard my Fortress Shell. But now I do have 8 mana, or at least I can charge up to 8 mana, which I'm assuming that I will. Yeah, there we go. And playing the Bazagazio Dragon, just going in to sort of remove the attacker. Interesting that I charge my second Thrashcrawler, so now there's no more ways to get things out of the mana zone since both Thrashcrawlers are in mana. But here for 7 mana, my opponent plays Emerald into Illusionary Merfolk, and it's already kind of looking bad for me. The Merfolk puts my opponent at now 5 cards in hand with this draw, so he has the card advantage. There's no way I'm mana burning him efficiently because he already has too much mana, and both of my mana recursion cards are in my mana zone, which means I'm not getting any mana back from there, so it's not looking great in terms of value. But you know, one well-placed Lost Soul can turn the tide of battle, and of course the Bazagazio Dragon does keep getting rid of creatures on the board. Yet another random discard, thankfully this time not hitting the perfect card for the first time. He's hit the Aqua Sniper instead of the Bazagazio Dragon. I guess now my opponent is thinking of whether he should go in or not, and he does go in, which I think is probably the correct way because you kind of have to take shields while you can. Crystal Memory shield trigger, so 2 shield triggers in the first 2 cards, that is pretty good. Of course, Crystal Memory is not necessarily a defensive shield trigger, but taking any card I want out of my deck at this point is very welcome. I'm not sure if I remember what I took here. I see I'm looking at my graveyard, so I'm probably considering like a Gigargon or something like that, which wouldn't be bad. But a Lost Soul would also be nice if I have another one remaining, because my opponent is at 4 cards in hand, so a Lost Soul here could actually be the comeback mechanic that I need. Yeah, that's what I took. Okay, it's just a Lost Soul, and interestingly enough, a Crystal Paladin has been discarded. That might be relevant later, but after the Lost Soul, my opponent just top decks a Gigargon, which is absolutely crazy. The best top deck you can have after a Lost Soul in that position, arguably. The Gigargon will get killed by the Bazagazio Dragon, of course, but he did take Emerald and Merfolk, so he can rebuild his hand. Also, my third shield was also a shield trigger in a burst shot, which is kind of crazy, hitting 3 shield triggers in the first 3 cards. Not bad here, not bad. Charging a Fairy Life, is this just another Bazagazio Dragon that's gonna come out? Or is there something else? Let's see, 3 mana, Bronze Arm Tribe, and then 8 mana, yeah, Bazagazio Dragon. And this is getting pretty intense because I am down to just 2 shields. And that's not a very pretty place to be, and it will be 1 shield after this Emerald takes another swing. And keep in mind that both of my blockers, this deck only runs 2 blockers, and both of them are in my mana zone. So that is like maybe a little bit yeah, silly, but the interesting part is that my opponent is approaching deck out. Ooh, a Ghost Touch getting rid of my Bazagazio Dragon. And he's not going in for another shield. I'm quite surprised by this, because now, for example, a Burst Shot could take the life of both the Emeralds. I guess he's thinking that, okay, if I take a shield, the Bronze Arm Tribe can trade into it, and I might as well take the shield next turn. But like a Burst Shot or something would have been very good here. And I top deck a Gigargon myself, which is again a very good top deck in this position. And I take the Bazagazio and the Aqua Sniper. And I think my opponent is at something like 2 or 3 cards left in deck, so he really, you know, he needs to go, and he needs to go fast in order to end this game. He's gonna play a Merfolk, drawing 3 cards, going down to 2 cards. I am maybe a little bit surprised here. That is maybe just a little bit greedy. And the Emeralds both go in, and a Terror Pit. I think this Terror Pit might just about save the game here. Because of course I can get rid of one of the attackers, and then Aqua Sniper can bounce 2 of the attackers, with Bronze Arm Tribe being able to trade for the final one, so we can really get a board cleared at this point. And it's also interesting here, there's a very interesting thing that will happen. I remember the finale of this game quite well. Again, my opponent is at 2 cards left in deck. Maybe he was fishing for something, I don't know. But let's see. I mean, there's not really much to think about here, I don't think. Well, I'll play an Energy Stream just because I have the mana and there's no reason to. But of course, Aqua Sniper will bounce the 2 attackers. And the Bronze Arm Tribe will clear the final one. And with 1 card left in deck, my opponent GG's out. Now, this actually told me something about his deck. The fact that he just outright GG'd out. He did have Emeralds in his hand. And, you know, this deck runs Crystal Paladins, which would have been game there if evolved on top of like an Aqua Guard or something like that. And he had 1 Crystal Paladin in the graveyard and 1 in the mana zone. If he was running 3 Crystal Paladins or more, he would have probably, since it was the final turn of the duel anyway, he would have probably tried to fish in shields with the Emeralds to try to get a Crystal Paladin. Maybe he didn't have baits or whatever, but given the size of his hand, that's maybe unlikely. So I sort of deduce from this that he probably isn't running 3 Paladins, like he's probably only running 2, which is the standard rates in most decks, but that's still some good information to have. Anyway, we're on to game number 2. Starting out strong with a Ghost Touch on my Bronze Arm Tribe. That's not what you want to see, because that is the best turn 3 play that you can have. But thankfully I also have a Fairy Life. This deck does run a lot of ramp, 4 ramp cards to be precise. So a turn 2 Fairy Life and we're off to the horses. I did charge a Locomotiver here, which I could have played, but I did feel like it wouldn't have really been impactful enough since he drew for Halkus anyway. And maybe I'm saving some better cards Aqua Hulk is going in. Already I'm not in a good spot actually, because I don't think there's much I can do about these two creatures on the board here. Oh, a Magma Rex, never mind. Okay, Magma Rex is good because it can destroy the Locomotiver and it can also trade for the Aqua Hulkus on board. So it will stop the aggression quite effectively. I think that was like the only 5 mana card in my deck that would have done anything here. So happy to see that being played, of course. I also don't remember the full duos here, so I'm still surprised by some of the things that are happening myself, even though I play the game, obviously. But let's see what happens. Another Ghost Touch, man. These, I actually realize that Ghost Touch is such an annoying card to deal with, especially when, yeah, when you're being the aggressor. It's so good. Because it can get rid of so many answers from the opponent, and it's also starving them of mana if they have an empty hand, because they won't have things to charge. But an energy stream is a pretty good draw here, given that my hand was empty. Although this paladin is... oh, Lost Soul, no! Oh, Terror Pit Shield Trigger. Okay, so Lost Soul, the best possible play from my opponent, followed by a Terror Pit Shield Trigger, was probably the only shield that would have saved the game there. Ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous. This is what I meant. Like, this game is so, you know, so many ups and downs in this match. I decided to charge a Magma Rex, which is interesting, and oh my lord, so many things happening. So my opponent discarded the only card in my hand, which was an Aqua Sniper, which was a very good discard because it could have stopped some attackers. Then I summon the Bometheus, and the Bometheus gets immediately sent to the hand by this Aqua Surfer. And oh lord, okay, Gigargon as well comes out, and with 3 attackers on the board and the Crystal Paladin in hand, I think the game is over. I'm not sure if there's anything in my deck that can deal with this. Bometheus would take 2 shields regardless, but I think with the Crystal Paladin coming out with 4 attackers, there's of course a burst shot, but if my opponent attacks in the correct order with the small creatures first, the burst shot won't matter. So I would need like 2 shield triggers, and that's just very unlikely. But let's see what happens. So yeah, there we go, the correct attack order. I had the Locomotiver shield trigger, but that's obviously not good enough, which means we will be going to game 3 of this series. So I won the first game, my opponent won the second game. I think the main difference was that in the first game I had some absolutely nuts shield triggers. Like, I didn't remember this, but watching it back now, man, my shields were cracked. And this game I had 1 shield trigger, which was a very, very well-timed Terror Pit, but of course that was not enough to win the game. So we're going on to game 3, shuffling well. I have this rule that I have to shuffle like, oh no, drop some cards there, that I have to shuffle like at least 20 times to basically have the deck properly shuffled. So you'll often see me, if we play real life or in real life duos, that I tend to shuffle more than my opponent usually. It's just a magical number that I have. And it's time for the game to get started. This time I will be going first, which I think is a pretty big advantage in this matchup, because if you're going first you can you know, more easily get your Fairy Lives, get your Bronze Arm Tribes and such, and get to the Lost Soul earlier. Although against Ghost Touch in particular, there is an argument to be going second, because Ghost Touch is yeah, it's a card that punishes you for having less cards in hand. Now my opponent played an Emerald and did not activate the effect. I actually didn't know that the effect was not mandatory, which is why I was reading the card here. I thought the effect was mandatory, but you could just swap the shield that you put in, so you put a card and you take it right back. But no, you actually can, like, the effect is, it's a May effect, so you can choose to skip that whole shebangle anyway. I seem to remember that in the GBA games you were forced to do this, which is why I thought the effect was mandatory. Anyway, we have a Ghost Touch. Sorry for rambling, but there's not all that much happening. Ghost Touch discarding a Terror Pit, not one of the key cards, so I'm happy that I no longer have like a Lost Soul or a Ramp card discarded. And my own Locomotiver doing a random discard on a Corail. And another, this is just a discard wars, man. And there we go, Lost Soul being discarded, although I'm not too sad about that because my opponent is at 1 card left in hand. So, you know, discarding Lost Soul doesn't do that much right now, but that being said, a Merfolk just came out and now my opponent is at a very scary board of 3 creatures, among which a Merfolk that's sitting at 4000 power. So it's not looking great. It's really not looking great. I think I will need some shields. Oh, never mind. Actually, with Pyrofighter removing one of the attackers, this board has gone all of a sudden from 3 attackers to just 1. This is why Pyrofighter is so good in this deck. I think maybe I would even bump the number up on that if I were to remake the deck, although the space is very tight here and you don't really want to drop any other fire cards. Anyway, all of that being said, I am down to just 2 shields facing 2 attackers on the board, so it's really, you know, not great. And I decide to go for a Lost Soul play here. Even though that puts me at 0 shields, I figured that that's basically the only way that I would ever have any chance of winning here. And I did get a Burst Shot shield trigger, and I remember my opponent saying that he didn't think about Burst Shot, which was very fortunate for me, but he attacked with a big creature first, which let me have 1 extra shield that I otherwise couldn't have had. So right now, if he'd attacked with a smaller creature first, I would have had 0 shields, and my opponent would have probably just won the game off the back of that. But now it's a very different situation because I do have 1 shield, and the Merfolk couldn't attack because the Fortress Shell would have traded it in. And now with the Bazagazio Dragon in hand, it's actually not looking all that bad. We are on the knife's edge because, well, of course we are. We're at 0 shields, but Bazagazio can clear any creature that my opponent can play. And I'm also very careful about not letting him have 5 mana with 2 cards in hand, because at that point he could have Aqua Guard plus Crystal Paladin. So if you notice, now he charged 5 mana. He's keeping 1 card in hand, so at this point I'm thinking like it's probably some combo piece. But like I'm really scared of this 5 mana threshold with 2 cards in hand. So this is why I'm taking my sweet ass time thinking here, like, does he have a Paladin? I remember I had some way of burning mana, but I thought, or maybe I didn't. I know I had some weird play that was like that could play around Paladin somehow. Maybe it was like some discard of some description. But I was really afraid of this, like Aqua Guard plus Crystal Paladin. I was looking at his mana zone. I saw an Aqua Guard in there. These decks usually play like 2 Aqua Guards. So at the end of the day, what I decided to do was like, yeah, I had a Thrashcrow in hand, which could do like Thrashcroger and a bunch of stuff to like play around the Crystal Paladin. But oh, is that what I'm doing? Yeah, we're doing Thrashcroger into Thrashcroger. And I didn't see what I grabbed there, but yeah, I remember doing this play because I was like, okay, if he has Crystal Paladin this exact turn, then so be it. But this is the play to win instead of the play not to lose, because from this point on I can basically no longer lose, because I can just spam my Fortress Shells. And yeah, at this point his only out is a Paladin, but he would need like 2 water manas for that. And that just gives me so much time to, you know, set up for everything. So here I end up doing an energy stream, slam down a Bowmay, and at this point I'm feeling pretty confident in this game. I think, you know, it's not looking too bad. Also, my opponent decides to not charge. He does a Ghost Touch. I think he was afraid of Bazagazio just coming in to finish the game, which is very fair. And he did discard the Bazagazio, but that also means that I cannot possibly lose next turn either, because he doesn't have 2 water manas to play like Aqua Guard Crystal Paladin. So this gives me another turn of freedom in which I can just do whatever the fuck I want without being afraid of any lose condition. So anyway, it was all because of that key turn in which I played like double Thrashcrow and taking back Fortress Shell. That was basically me saying, okay, I will have 1 turn in which I'm vulnerable, But this is playing to win instead of playing not to lose. Like, after this turn, I just cannot possibly lose the game afterwards. And you're seeing it now, like Bomaetius just starting to go for shields. He tries to play a Merfolk with, you know, no effect because he doesn't have any liquid peoples. I Terrapit it for good measure, and I just decide to go in, even though I could have waited another turn. But there was no point because I know his deck doesn't play any mass removal like Holy Oaths and such. And this was the game. I think it was very interesting and a very close game. And I think a lot can be learned from it as well. Now, if you don't want the Duel Masters action to stop and you'd like to see the other rounds, I highly encourage you to visit Marquito's Duel Masters channel. He made this tournament possible and uploaded all the VODs for you to enjoy, and while you're there you can find other interesting Duel Masters content as well. That's it from me for today, Duelists. I hope you enjoyed this video duel, and I will see you next time. Take care.